You know, when you play out different scenarios in your head, like if they say this, I'll say this. I used to think that was such a good idea to prepare for a conversation, especially if it's an important conversation, until I started to realize how much time it took. Not just how much time it took out of my day, but just the focus, attention, and just energy of constantly being in my head, overthinking, stressed out because I'm preparing for these scenarios. And then as I keep thinking about it, now there's new scenarios to prepare for. So in this video, I'm going to help you see why we do that, why we play out all these different scenarios, and also what we want from doing this. So then we could get to the end point of how to just stop doing this altogether so you don't have to spend so much time in your head. So sit back and enjoy. What's up? What's up? Welcome back to the channel. And if you're new here, I'm Mike. I'm a pattern breaking specialist, and I created this channel to help you break the pattern of living in your head so you can come back to the present moment. And this is something that really takes you out of the present moment and puts you in the head, which is playing all these different scenarios. And the main thing to see is what we're wanting when we play out all these scenarios is certainty. And it's not till you say that you start to realize that's what I've been trying to give myself the whole time. Is I wanted certainty that I will be heard and there's something that I really want that I would actually be able to get from this conversation. Because that's all we're really trying to do is see all the different possible ways the conversation can go so it can go in the very specific way that we want it to be. But that feeling of trying to like grasp for certainty, it feels like trying to grab onto water. Like you go and reach into the ocean and squeeze as much as you can or scoop up, but no matter how you put your hand, water is going to seep through. It's going to seep through your fingers. And it takes so much attention to try to make sure only so much water gets out. And that's what we're doing when we start to play all these different scenarios. Because you realize there's no break. There's no point where you're like, okay, like now I'm prepared. I thought of all the possible ways because the second you go through one scenario and you're like, okay, that one's taken care of. Then all of a sudden you're like a thought will come up. What if they say this though? Okay, well, if they say that, then I'll say, and then now all of a sudden, like you feel yourself getting worked up because you're using your imagination to prepare for the conversation, right? Prepare what's going to happen. And that's the purpose of your imagination, by the way. Your mind is like a virtual reality, and it has the ability to paint the picture of life and get you to feel the emotions of the picture you're painting. And that's where it could be really tough to like tell the difference between what you're imagining and what's actually happening because it feels so real. And that could work to your benefit if you're using it on purpose, if you're being very intentional with what you're imagining and knowing the difference between what's imagination and what's real life. But then when you start to get in your head and you prepare for all these scenarios, that could also lead down the path of the conversation not going that well. Because now, keep in mind, you're anticipating all the possible ways the person would respond to you. The conversation hasn't happened yet. So then now that could be a good thing in preparation, right? It seems that way, but then that could also bring you into the conversation already charged up, already annoyed because you're like, I already know what they're going to say. I know them so well. I know what they're going to say. They're going to say this and this and this and this and this. And because you already addressed it, you're like, I feel like I have to repeat myself. It's like, but the conversation didn't happen, not with them. So you're showing up with this energy, and then what are they going to do? They're going to mirror it and respond back. And now that's where the conversation could go downhill very fast. And the reason why this makes sense to do is we're just trying to protect ourselves from the past rejections that we had. There were times where growing up, there's like something that you wanted and it was really important to you, and you would ask and you wouldn't get it. And it's not really so much that you didn't get it, it was not seen as important. So A prime example for this would be like me when I was younger. My parents were split. They were divorced from as long as I can remember. So I would have to go back and forth from my mom to my father. And the way they did that was my mom lived in Pennsylvania and my father was in New Jersey. There was also a period where we were in New York, but my mom would just drop me off in an area and my father would pick me up. A common meeting place was the George Washington Bridge, the GWB. So my mom would drop me off at night, like 8 o'clock ish, and then my father would be to pick me up. But that wouldn't happen. I'd be there for hours, hours. Like, I mean, like 2, 3, sometimes 4 hours. And I'm like young still. I'm like 11, 12, 13, for like this just happened throughout my life where I'm just like sitting and waiting. And I just wanted, like, I felt when I was younger, I wanted to see my father. And that was really important to me. And then it got to the point where it's like, okay, I just want him to be on time. Like, I know I'm going to see him, but I just want him to be on time. I want him to pick me up. I don't want to wait there for hours by myself. And no matter what, it always happened that way. So then I started to realize, okay, maybe I need to just change like what I'm saying. If I guide the conversation in a specific way, maybe it'll give me the outcome that I'm wanting. So then I started to say, like, give different reasons as to why he should show up earlier. Oh, I'm not feeling well. Or, um, you know, I'm carrying something very important with me and I don't want to be outside. And still the same thing. So I was like, okay, maybe if I say a different time, then I could time it to where I'll tell him an hour or two ahead of time. And then that'll line up to him getting there at that time. Still didn't work. But what that taught me was now I'm playing different scenarios. Now I'm thinking of different ways to guide the conversation to avoid the rejection of something that I want. But the thing is, ultimately, that got me to just be afraid to ask for what I want because now I'm more focused on how can I like manipulate the situation to get what I want rather than just asking directly for what I want. I never really got to ask for it because I felt like I would just be rejected. I was rejected time and time again. Why would this be different? So, as human beings, we adapt. So, the adaptation is if I'm going to be rejected, what ways can I approach the situation to limit the rejection? So, if I could predict all the possible ways I can be rejected, then I could think of a response to it so I could get back to the thing that I want. There's something I want, it's not seen as important. How can I make it so it's just as important to them without realizing that it's something that they're seeing as important, but it's been important to me the whole time. So when we hear manipulation, it sounds like, well, I don't want to be manipulating. Like that sounds bad. There's always been like a word that's associated with a bad thing or something that a bad person would do to take advantage of someone. But when you hear it in this way, you get to see manipulation is just a neutral word. It's just describing what's happening. So another way to say it is just you're just guiding the conversation. You're guiding what's happening between you and this other person. And you're just guiding it towards the thing that's important to you, the thing that you want. But the main thing is you're not communicating what you want. You're not getting that across. So it's putting you in this limbo space where you're feeling like your needs are not being met. You're almost like your wants don't matter because you're not even acknowledging that you want something. You're more acknowledging the ways that you're not getting it and you're trying to work around it. So, the first thing, right, is when you're catching yourself in this loop, when you're catching yourself having these conversations and you're playing out these different scenarios, there's a point that you keep circling back to. No matter what scenario you come up, you always circle back to this thing. What is that? Once you just write out what that thing is, like for me, it was just, I just wanted to be picked up on time. That was my thing. But I felt that, yes, I asked that before and I didn't get it, but I lost sight that that's what I wanted. And in losing sight of that's what I wanted and I wasn't getting it, I tried to find ways of how can I still get it? How can I manipulate the situation? How can I guide it in a way that I can still get what I want? But then I was no longer focused on what I want. I was focused on the fact that I wasn't getting it and how can I still get it? So to stop all of this, the first thing is, what do you want? Let's just get clear on what it is that you want and just write it out. What's the point you keep circling back to? Because once you get clear on that, you don't really have to spend so much time figuring out what's the thing you're trying to guide them to. Now you're very clear. This is what I want. And it seems like you were clear the whole time, but this is where the second step comes into play. Now, the second step is you wrote out what you want. Now, what's the most clear and direct way that you can ask for what you want? And direct doesn't mean rude. Direct is just, you're not going to do the manipulation anymore. You're not going to do this whole like song and dance and try to get them to see like the value of it and why it's important. None of that stuff. That's still doing the same thing. You're still anticipating rejection. So, what's the most clear, honest, and direct way that you can ask for what you want? Not being rude, right? Because you also don't want to have the past pains of rejection or all the different scenarios, the energy of that come into your asking, because now that's going to influence how they respond. Because let's say I want you to pick me up. And because of my experience with my father, if I say, like, if I think about those moments that I'm waiting for hours and I approach you with that energy and asking you to pick me up, if I say, like, hey, can you pick me up from the bus stop at like 8 p.m., but be there at 8. Like, I don't want to wait. So when I say 8 o'clock, be there at 8 because I'm going to be waiting. Before I continue, you're like, no, Mike, I don't want to pick you up. Not when you're talking to me like that. But you got to see the more I was like asking, the more I started to go deeper and deeper to how I was feeling when I was waiting. And I started to feel the frustration. I started to feel like the like being pissed off and the anger and then the feeling of like the sadness that's behind it, which made me even more mad and more defensive. So but that made you not want to do it because of how I was approaching you. So just being direct doesn't mean being rude. Being direct is just, I want to know, right? Using the same scenario, if you could pick me up at 8. So just being direct is, hey, I'm going to get there at 8. Will you be able to pick me up at 8 once I get there? Just so I know. And then based on your answer, that's really all I have control over is just asking the question, which now goes into the next part is if they're not able or willing to give you what you want, can you be okay with that? Can you accept that they are not able or willing to give you what you want? Because if I ask you the question and I really want you to pick me up, maybe I want to connect with you on the drive, maybe I haven't seen you in a while, or whatever the reason is, right? I want you to pick me up. And that could even be the clear and direct ask, because there's a difference between can you pick me up from the bus stop at 8 or my true want is that I want you to pick me up. And that could, like, you might even feel like a little rush in that of like, ooh, yeah, I don't know if I want to say that. Maybe that might come across as needy or like, now with this part, how would I feel if I say that I want them to pick me up and they say no? I'd be like, ooh, like that'll suck. That kind of hurts. Now, will it be awkward if we hang out and I ask that I want them to pick me up and they say no? Like, how would that feel? Would I want to hang out with them? Would they want to hang out with me? Like, but it's just that's what you really want. How else would you know unless you ask directly of what you really want? So if that's my want, that I want you to pick me up, I would have to ask that. Hey, I'm going to get there at 8. I want you to pick me up from the bus stop at 8. Is that how is that for you? Is that good for you? Does that work? And I would have to be open to a possibility of you saying no. Either no, that doesn't work for you, no, you don't want to, because the same way I want freedom in my life, I have to accept your freedom as well. I can't force you to now pick me up from the bus stop because I want you to. If let's say like you're really, I don't know, you're cooking or you're doing something, or maybe you just really don't want to. Sometimes we forget people don't want to do stuff. There's times I don't want to do stuff. Right? There's not only just the fact that like I don't want to do laundry, but there's times where it's like, maybe I've had a long day or maybe I'm tired, whatever the thing is, and I just don't want to do something. Did we forget sometimes we don't feel like doing stuff? It's okay. That doesn't change anything, but that's also a want. I don't want to do this. And you have like that has to be okay. That has to be like something you get to accept that I'm asking, hey, I want you to pick me up from the bus stop at 8 o'clock. And if you say no, then can I accept that? Because if I can't accept it, that means I'm going to spend time in my head thinking of the different scenarios of you possibly saying no, and then how can I convince you to still pick me up? Because I wasn't okay with accepting the fact that you didn't want to do it. And I wasn't okay with accepting that as a possible reality of me not getting what I want from you. And that's a core part from you. It's not that you're not getting what you want. The acceptance is they're not the source of what you want in this moment. So I want to get picked up at 8. I want to get picked up at 8 at the bus stop from you. But if you say no, then instead of just being in my head spiraling of like, okay, like they said no. Well, if I say this, then maybe I can make it important. Or, no, right now, you're not the source of what I want. So what else could be the source of what I want? It could be an Uber. I could Uber my way to you. Either way, with me now accepting that you're not the source of what I'm wanting, now I get to save all this mental energy, all this focus, attention, and like the time. Jesus Christ, the time of just being stressed out, just overthinking so much. And redirect that towards, okay, I'm not getting picked up from them. So how can I get my want? Okay, I could do an Uber, or if I have other people, let's say like as other friends and we're staying together, maybe somebody else might want to pick me up. Or maybe I ask ahead of time and like we're as friends going to the same place and I plan with them to carpool or whatever the thing is. Now you're open to options. Now what you want doesn't seem limited to one person. And just like using the Uber, for example, even when it feels like it is limited to one person, you still have options. You're just not willing to see them when you're so focused on trying to convince somebody to give you something that they don't want to give you. And that may suck to hear, but it frees you up from needing it from them. And what allows you to let that pain go is feeling the fact that there's something that you wanted and you wanted it from somebody, you just didn't get it from them. And now to close the loop, you want to change the certainty you're looking for. Because in the beginning, when we're playing all these different scenarios and we're going through all the different rejections, the certainty we were looking for was the certainty that we would get what we want. It's like, okay, if they say this, I'll say this, and then I could know for certain that I will get what I want. But in going through the process, you get to see first, you got clear on what you wanted. Then you got clear on how to ask directly for what you wanted. And then you got to accept you may or may not get what you want from this source, from this person. So now what you want is certain. You're no longer concerned about that. That's no longer in the space of uncertainty. And now you have to make sure it happens. Now you know it's going to happen no matter what. If it doesn't come from this source, it may feel uncomfortable, but that doesn't mean you don't get what you want. So that's certain. That allows you to now relax a little bit. But the certainty now is, are we willing to ask directly for what we want? And once you're willing to commit to that with yourself and trust yourself that when the time comes, you'll ask for it, then that'll get you to relax even further. And what'll get you to relax completely is to accept the truth that you don't know how they're going to respond. You don't know what they're going to say, but you can relax in the knowing that you know what you want, you know how to ask it, and you know that you're going to ask it no matter how you feel. Even if you feel a little nervous about the potential rejection, even if there is the possibility of the rejection, you don't know, but what you do know is that you will ask. And that in itself gets the mind to quiet completely. Because now there's no scenarios to figure out. You don't have to try to manipulate the situation anymore because you accept the fact that you don't know what they're going to say, but you know what you're going to say. And then based on their response, it's either yes, great, awesome, looking forward to it, or no, cool, I'll get an Uber or whatever other option you come up with. And if there's a feeling of like being bummed out, you can process that and feel that in the moment and not have to like hold on to the feeling and push the feeling away because you don't want to feel that because you're still holding on to the fact that you really wanted this thing to happen. It's just like, damn, okay. Like I really wanted that and sucks I didn't get it, but I'm still going to get what I want, which is to still get there and still see the person, still connect with the person. And now you are where you are. You're not in your head. You're able to like be with the emotion that comes up. You're either able to be with the emotion of the excitement of seeing the person, or you're able to be with the emotion of feeling the loss of something that you wanted. And then the emotion will pass through you. And then allowing the emotion to pass through you, you could stay present. So then when you see the person, you may be welcomed by their excitement of seeing you. Because if you hold on to that pain of not getting what you want, of not getting picked up by them, and then because you don't be present, because you aren't present with the emotion and you don't allow the emotion to pass through you, now you're going to show up with that emotion still in you. And that's where you show up like, why couldn't you pick me up? I wanted to see you. And why isn't it important? But that's still doing the same thing. That's still trying to manipulate the conversation and get them to see why it was important to you that they picked you up. And now they're going to mirror that back to you. Now there's going to be an argument where if you just allow yourself to be present with the feeling of like, damn, I wanted to see them sooner. It didn't happen. I Ubered. When you get there, you might be greeted with their excitement. And who knows? Maybe they were preparing something for you. Maybe there was a surprise dinner. Maybe they were working on something. Maybe something happened that you didn't know. But you're allowing yourself to be present with life as it's happening in front of you rather than kind of like being in the backseat. So this was an awesome episode. Like it's cool to see how like there's so many layers to everything. It's just the way I love like looking at life. But I love that I get to share this with you all and help you through it in case like you're going through similar things. So let me know what you got in the comments from this. What was the part that stood out to you that you really got to feel the most that you saw yourself in? What was the part that you saw yourself in and you're like, wow, okay, this really helped me with this? I would love to know that. So I'm wishing you an amazing day. If it's nighttime by you, I'm wishing you an amazing night, and I will catch you later.